The Intellivision Amico. If you're new to this entire charade, the Amico was a video game console dreamt up by video game pioneer Tommy Tallarico, announced in 2018 and then delayed more times than the Dr. Dre 2001 follow-up album.
Hold up.
This new age system for retro gamers was meant to bring more classics back from the dead than any other system you could possibly imagine. The only problem was that pretty much all of the 150 plus games that were teased, rumoured and promised to be working on simply weren't. Sure, from time to time we were lucky enough to get a teaser trailer or even a logo of the game, but more often than not, these announcements were nothing more than a dangled carrot in front of the interviewee to get their interest / their audience's interest / deposits. Like, for instance, are we going to be getting a new Q*bert game, Tommy?
Wouldn't that be something?
A game like Animal Crossing?
Wouldn't that be something?
Castlevania?
Wouldn't that be
Contra?
something?
A Dr. Seuss game? E.T., Willy Wonka, Frogger, Bad Dudes, Bust a Move, Catan, Dungeons and Dragons, Batman, Spider-Man, Worms, Tron, Gauntlet. So, pretty much everything, right? Every single game ever made is coming to the Amico.
Wouldn't that be something? We're going to find out soon enough.
Oh my god, will you just shut the f*** up? And best of all, every single game announced, teased and promised for this console was going to be an exclusive version for the Amico. In other words, the entire thing was complete bull. In his mind, he and his team had the connections to make this happen, which in all fairness isn't unbelievable. It was quite the legendary team, but when you look at the sheer amount of games the company was teasing and that some of those properties are owned by companies like Disney, that's when it becomes idiotic. But on top of creating games based on properties like Kool-Aid Man, for instance, yes, that was actually a game that he did tease. The crazy thing is, on paper, Tommy and his crew did do the right thing. He and his team went to small indie developers and got them to create games for his upcoming system. But unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, that was a lie too, as the majority of the games were simply ports of other games already made, but, you know, with a multiplayer mode, a Game Plus mode, or a skin of some sort tacked on. Which means, if you are as obsessed with this console as I am, then you can already play a heavy chunk of these games right now. And that's what we're going to be doing today. And in every single possible instance that I can, links to each of the games talked about will be found down below. And hey, even though we may never ever get to play on Amico systems ourselves, what you guys can get is me, holding something that looks remarkably like an Amico controller. But for obvious legal reasons, this is not an Amico controller. It's an iPod or something. You can get this as a plush by going to the link below. I need 200 pre-orders to make this a thing, so please, go get one if you want to own the closest thing that you possibly can to, that system that's totally not what I'm holding. Anyway. Let's do this thing. Yep, let's start off with the obvious ones. Shark, Astro Smash, and Dynablaster. These games have been around now for a good long while. Dynablaster was created by third-party studio BBG Entertainment and is currently available on Steam, Switch, and Xbox. What you got here is a Bomberman clone that plays exactly how you would expect, like Bomberman. In fact, Dynablaster was the name given to a few of the earlier European titles in the Bomberman franchise, so unlike all other Bomberman clones out there, this one is a little more connected than you may think. The problem is, they're still making Bomberman games to this very day. And with such a simple concept as Bomberman, the majority of these new entries and clones have tried to mix up the formula and then some, leaving this game as nothing more than a standard Bomberman game. It doesn't do anything wrong per se, it plays exactly how it should, but sadly it doesn't have all that much meat on the bone, besides it being a pretty standard Bomberman game. Still, you can now play this game on all of the previously mentioned systems along with Shark and Astro Smash. Now, these ones were going to be 100% exclusive titles, pack-in titles at that. However, when the writing was most definitely on the wall for the Amico system, they had no choice but to sell some of Intellivision's IPs, which was when the same company, BBG, purchased them for an unknown sum and released slightly enhanced versions on Steam, Switch and Xbox. I already talked about Shark at length in its own dedicated video, and I stand by that review. It is a fun game in multiplayer, albeit a little bit short and definitely a little bit too expensive as well. And as for Astro Smash, this one is pretty much the same. I still stand by the fact that these would have been great freebies for the console at its earlier price point, but now as standalone products for 15 buckaroonies a pop, they do indeed need a little bit more meat on the bone. Regardless, I am super happy that BBG Entertainment stumped up whatever amount of money they did to get these games onto places like Steam and the Switch and Xbox. And even though they are quite expensive, these are probably prices that they need to put out there to actually earn their money back, especially considering the physical copies of their games for the Amico. They've not made any money off the back of these at all. They're only going to be making money once these games have been downloaded onto Amico systems, or I suppose the Amico home app, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Actually, let's talk about that right now. One of the more recent ways to play these once exclusive pack-in titles is via the Amico itself. Yes, at long last, the Amico is here, the console that is totally not being run on mobile phone technology, the console that is absolutely not going to be filled with crappy mobile phone applications, and finally, the console that 100% can only be truly played on by using their unique controller. Yep, they released the Amico as a phone app. You see, very recently, as in November of 2023, Intellivision, now being looked after by Phil Adam, have released the Amico console, but they've released it as an application for Android devices. Now, this may sound like an okay roundabout way of doing things, but in actual fact, it's incredibly backwards because it literally turns your phone into the console, meaning that it's a console that you can't interact with. And the reason for this is because you don't have the controller. It's similar to turning a standard game console on and not having a controller for that either. There's absolutely nothing you can do with this app on its own, unless you go into an old drawer somewhere and find your old phone, like this one here, and then control this app by downloading yet another app, the controller app. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yep, that's two apps you need to download to play games like Shark and Astro Smash that has already proven by BBG work perfectly well and better with any standard controller. But this app forces you to download this controller that, hang on. Yep, they've stopped talking to each other. It's no longer working. This is so bad. This is terrible. And you know what? It gets a whole lot worse. You see, now that you've downloaded the controller app on all of your phones you wish to connect to the console app, you then need to choose a game and download it. But get this, as yet another separate Google Play Store app. So that's 3 apps you need to download over 2 phones to play a one-player game on one device. It's absolute insanity, and what makes it crazier is the fact that these guys are charging the same amount as what BBG are charging for these once-free pack-in games. Oh no, wait, they've priced them wrong. Anyway, let's go take a quick look at some of the games that are exclusive to Amico Home, with the first one being Missile Command, an absolute legendary game from back in the day that sadly let down here because of its controls. Look, I'm sorry, but there's absolutely no way that this works better than just using an original touchpad or, I don't know, a mouse. Either way, it does the job well enough, and I didn't mind what I was playing. It's just that 11 waves in, the game didn't change up in any way whatsoever. It's like playing that same level 1 on loop for eternity, just with a few extra missiles added in later levels. Thankfully, the Google Play Store does give refunds early, which I took full advantage of, leaving the only exclusive game left to play being Sideswipers. Now, you may remember this one from my 4-hour documentary. Back then it was called Hot Wheels Colossal Crash. Now it's called Sideswipers because they've obviously lost the Hot Wheels name. But what you may not know, and I definitely didn't know, is that this is a multiplayer only game. You literally cannot lose. And yes, after looking at the Google Play Store, not once did it mention that this is a multiplayer game. This is the closest that I could find.
Required. One or more additional mobile devices running the free Amico controller app to act as wireless game controllers.
I mean, they're not lying, I suppose. You can kind of play this in one player if all you want to do is the same one track on loop several times and complete the game by doing literally nothing. But obviously a game like this is going to shine with multiplayer. So I waited for my wife to get home and I annoyed her by downloading the 4th app over 3 different phones to play a 1-level game on loop that requires nothing more than just 2 buttons. Literally a Master System or NES controller could have done the same thing. And they could have done it better. Oh, see, I nearly got you there. Bang! Got you.
Who won?
I did. I smashed into the side of you.
Oh, right.
Do you understand?
Yeah. Great game.
How much reckon this game cost me?
What's free with the app?
£4.
£4 for each game?
No, this one's £4. Other games are 15.
Excellent.
Yeah, the game's crashed.
Good, isn't it?
It's crashed. So yeah, there you go. That's the Amico, Joanne. Would you buy it?
Yes, no.
Now, look. I mean, it's an okay game. Let's take the price out of the equation. Let's take the fact that you need to download 4 apps over 3 different phones to play this 1-level game that just is 1 level on an infinite loop. And, I mean, it does what it says on the tin. For those that don't know, this is based on a classic Hot Wheels toy called Criss Cross Crash, and it does a perfectly fine job at recreating that. If this was an extra game mode in a title like Hot Wheels Unleashed, for instance, and featured more cars and track layouts, I would say, awesome. But sadly, it's not. Oh, and by the way, that game is currently on sale for £2 more than this one. Oh, would you look at that? I'm one of the first 10 people to pay for this game in the world. That's what roughly $17 million in funds gets you. And yes, I waited way too long for my wife to get home from work and then download the app on her phone, so that means I did miss out on the refund for this, so I officially do own a copy of this game. Damn it. So in short, the Amico Home app is quite literally the console but put on a phone. And we'll talk about this more a little later on in the video. Still, that's 2 extra games found on our list of now 5 games that were going to be exclusive. What's next? Well, you got the previously released demo of Moon Patrol on the old Amico app. Sadly, this one is actually no longer available to download, but it does at least use the phone as a controller and benefits greatly because of that. It's okay at best, an early look at what could have been, keeping true to the original games. Evel Knievel was another game that started its life on mobile phones before the Amico team pumped money into it to make it quote-unquote better for the Amico. As of the recording of this video, this one is no longer available, unless you downloaded it before it went off on the Google Play Store like I did right here. And for those wondering, yeah, it's kind of like one of those Trials games, you know, just not as good. But then again, Trials is just a beefed up version of those old mini clip games from the early noughties. Either way, you know, credit where credit is due, this one is actually really well designed and does have that Evel Knievel branding. If you can find it, it's well worth checking this out for its original asking price of $1.99 before it went free to play. I've definitely played worse 2.5D physics-based racing games or whatever you want to call them, and even though I've obviously also played better, this one is definitely on the higher end of the list. It's a pretty good game. It's just a shame that right now it's currently not available. Thankfully, one game that is still up and available to download is Emoji Charades. Now, I don't have an iPhone myself, which sucks as the Android version is out of date. But considering the Amico's reveal and teasers of this game are literally just the teasers and trailers shown on their YouTube channel, I think it's fair to review this game based on other people's opinions. Again, this one actually looks to be quite good and the reviews are good too. One person uses the phone and then chooses emojis based on the clue that they are trying to get others to guess. It's simple, like Jackbox Party, it looks to be a good party game. It's just a shame that they stopped supporting the Android version. Still, Still, this could have been good on the Amico with exclusive questions and what have you. As I haven't played it, I can't recommend it. But hey, this one also does exist. So far, we've been looking at some of the random games found on the 157 games that I previously talked about in my video almost a year ago. But would you believe it if I told you there were even more games that we didn't find back then? And one of those games was called Darts Frenzy. This one was shown off by a couple of YouTubers that were playing it on original Amico hardware. Now, of course, darts isn't the most exciting game ever, so I understand them holding this one off until the console was released before announcing it. Because obviously there are people out there that like virtual darts games for whatever reason. And to those people I say, never fear, because it already exists. Here's Darts Rage, a game I spent a stupid amount of time trying to find a working copy of that was released for $7 in 2010 on the Wii Virtual Console. And, I mean, it's really not that bad as far as dart games go. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience, but I had a perfectly fine time with this one. The newer Amico version does indeed look a little polished compared to this, which is being captured on a Wii U for HDMI reasons. But there's no getting away from the fact that both games are using the same engine and therefore are essentially the same game. I mean, come on, they're both just darts games. It just depends whether you want the, what I class as fantastic accuracy of the Wii Motion Plus controllers, or the unreleased Amico controller that the Amico team themselves thought wasn't good enough for their cornhole game when they redone the controls for that. Anyway, speaking of unreleased games, hey there guys, DJ Slope from the future here. Turns out that this game actually does exist. Well, the Amico version does exist, and you're able to get that version now, not on the Google Play App Store, but instead on the Amazon App Store. Yes, this whole Amico Home thing is now over on the App Store, so you can download it there. I personally couldn't bring myself to spend nearly £12 on a game that came out in 2010, originally for £7. But hey, still, if you do want to play what looks like an HD version of a 2010 game for twice the price than it originally was, then hey, go right ahead. Anyway, let's carry on with the rest of the games. This is Super Space Towers, a game created by a company called Happy Cactus Games, released in 2021 for £5. Now, this game looks to be inspired by an addictive home computer game called Thrust, and has even had a ray tracing update quite recently too, making it the best of what this game can possibly ever look like. For me, this is arcade perfection, and if you are somebody that likes light puzzle-like Asteroids meets Choplifter type games, then I cannot suggest this game enough. The price is right, the reviews are great, it's just a shame that more people don't know about this one. And I only know about this game's connection to the Amico after the developer of this game reached out to me after I released my 4-hour video. He said that he was contacted by a gentleman known as Walter Prett, a personal friend of Tommy's, who offered $10,000 plus royalties to create a 2-player exclusive version of their games for the Amico. Yes, games. A Blast from the Past was yet another game by the company, and this too was going to be coming to the Amico. A Gallagher clone, if you will, with all of the usual neon lighting effects you've come to expect from these modern takes on classic games that aren't made by the Amico team. And again, this is a good price, it has great reviews, it's well worth checking out if you want to play more games like this. And that's the good thing about this list. You can download and own these games right now. The bad thing to take from this is that the team did spend time working on a multiplayer mode. They changed small aspects of the game to better fit the Amico hardware, and in this instance, as they didn't have dev kits at this point, they even went out and purchased a few Android tablets to test it on, as these had the same specs as the Amico system itself. And why is this bad? Because the Amico team never sent the dev kits, they never sent the contract, and they never sent them any money. We kept getting contacted asking for videos and them bills with promises of dev kits / payments coming soon, but we never shipped them any bills without the contract / payment. If they did, then you can be damn sure that these games would have shown up in the random sizzle reels that we saw over the years. I watched all of your Amico video the other day. It was epic, and it made me realise how lucky I was to have only wasted a few weeks development time and a few £100 buying some Android tablets. Adding 2-player split screen mode to Super Space Towers was a technical challenge, so I quite enjoyed it really. Again, links to all of these games can be found down below if you want to support these devs that were wronged by the Amico team. However, one game that isn't down below is this game, Nitro Derby, which was shown off in sizzle reels and was even claimed to be recorded directly from Amico hardware. Now obviously that wasn't the case, it was nothing more than a VR demo, hence the wobbly camera, from a company called Chicken Waffle Games, who have sadly not released it. However, when it comes down to top-down racing games, I was able to find another one that's never been mentioned, Rally Rumble. This was a game created by a friend of the show for the Amico, but unfortunately, due to a lack of communication, it never got any further than this. Now, of course, please do not judge this as a full gaming experience, because it's not. This game started its life when the developer, speaking directly to Tommy on the Amico Age forums, showed interest in creating games for the system, to which Tommy replied, and I quote,
Let's get you making games for Amico so I can be with you when you pick out your new Ferrari.
God, that's painful to read. But again, obviously due to a lack of communication after this game never went any further than what you're seeing right here. Now, I'm not going to be telling you that Rally Rumble is the best game I've ever played or anything like that, but what I will say is that it's completely different from any game I've played before of this style. The game has a heavy emphasis on spinning around corners, and it's quite cool to imagine how that would have felt with an Amico controller. Unfortunately, with a standard Xbox controller, it's borderline unplayable. With a keyboard, it's emulatable, but not to the extent that an Amico controller can provide, is my guess. Perhaps this is something the Amico team should have put more, any money into to turn it into a real game, but as stated, all communication instantly stopped when they, wasn't interested anymore. Now, I don't have a link to this demo down below yet. Hopefully I'll be able to fix that in the future. But if you do want to support this developer, then please do go and check out his magazine, NZ Retro, which may even feature an exclusive interview with yours truly in an upcoming issue. Right, so that's 10 not so exclusive games for the Amico that you can play or have been able to play in some form or another. So let's smash out a few more. Care Bears Care Cars is a free-to-play mobile phone game that you can download and involves nothing more than jumping to collect items before you get to the end and sort them into groups. This is absolutely perfect for little kids, but also perfect for touchscreen phones. No way would this work better on an Amico controller.
And again, we're not porting games, though. I don't want people to think we're taking games from the cell phone. That's what the Ouya tried to do. Yeah. It was a disaster. We're not interested in doing that.
The Sesame Street games are quite literally flash games. Sorry, scrub that. Free flash games, and as good looking as they are, yeah, they're quite literally just flash games. Breakout was shown off a few times over the years and never got any further than this. This is a demo of sorts created by Choice Provisions, mostly known for their Bit Trip series. For me, this was the bigger nut kicks to come from this whole debacle, as I was seriously excited for it. Brain Jewel was originally a game called Einstein Brain Trainer, again created by BBG Entertainment, available for $2.99 on the App Store. From my chats with the folks over at BBG, it was actually this game that really did sell them on the Amico system, as that version was going to include certain trivia games that would work really well with each player having their own screen. Still, if you do want to play an earlier version of this game, then it is still available on mobile phones. Links down below as stated. Graviators was a game shown off on the official Amico YouTube channel by a bunch of guys using Xbox controllers and was released on Steam in August of 2023. Still with the ability to use Xbox controllers, of course. All I can say is that I hope this one comes out on other platforms, as currently nobody is playing online, and the PC is near impossible to compete with. I am sure this game gets better after you put the time in, but for me, it just feels super hard to understand how you're going to play this one well at all. Rigid Force Redux Enhanced is yet another game that is already available twice. Rigid Force Redux is available on pretty much all current gen systems, which itself is an enhanced version of another game called Rigid Force Alpha. Essentially what you got here is a decent looking R-Type clone, which a lot of fans are super impressed by. If you're a fan of classic R-Type games, you probably already know about this one, as it was relatively highly reviewed at the time of release, and for good reason. It is a good game. Now, of course, we don't have the 2-player mode that was going to make it exclusive for the Amico. Hopefully in time an update comes along that adds that mode into the Switch version and the Steam version and what have you. But still, this is definitely worth picking up, and it often goes for a lot less than what Intellivision were asking for in the sales. The very first day the Amico was announced, a massive sizzle reel of games was also announced, including an exclusive version of Toejam Earl. Now, I'm a big fan of Toejam Earl, and looking at the artwork shown off, my guess was that it was going to be an exclusive version of the Back in the Groove game from 2019. So I reached out to Anthony Knapp, one of the guys that worked on Back in the Groove, and he was one of the guys that was working on the Amico version, and yes, he did confirm that this was going to be an exclusive version of Back in the Groove from 2019. However, in his mind, this never went any further than, hey, wouldn't it be cool if... From my personal experience, he only ever hopped on to one of our calls and really quickly said,
"Hey guys, excited for the new game. We're even gonna get some new music with the guy who did the music for the first game. Okay, gotta run."
Once he left, I said, does he think we're gonna be making a new game? Even though everyone else we were speaking to knew that this was a port. So truthfully, I think that Tommy was just juggling too much at the time and didn't have all the details. So yeah, that was it. That was the entire input, according to Anthony Knapp, one of the lead guys that worked on this game at least. He had ideas of using the Amico controller to rattle the presents that you find in the game to try and work out what was inside, along with a map that would show up on the controller, of course, and for the console to flash to the beat of the music during the dancing mini games. But again, these were just ideas, or as he puts it, wouldn't it be cool if, you know, we did that thing? And it never went any further than that. Now, of course, Back in the Groove is available for pretty much all modern systems and is well worth checking out as and when, and hopefully soon I'll be saying the same thing about Dolphin Quest. Now, this was the game that was shown off during one of the earlier sizzle reels by the company created by Echo the Dolphin creator, Ed Annunziata, who again, I reached out to personally, and he confirms that it will be coming soon. In fact, the footage you're seeing on the screen is exclusive to me, never before seen footage sent to me from Ed himself, who stated that he has not heard from any of the Intellivision team since Tommy left. And even though he does not want to give a date as of yet, expect to hear more about this spiritual Echo the Dolphin successor sometime in 2024. Which finally brings us to our final game, Finnegan Fox, which kind of already existed as another game called Fox and Forests. Now, to be fair, this one is quite far removed from the footage seen on the Amico, as this was one of the games that Tommy and co pumped some serious effort and supposed money into in order to make it unique looking for the system. Regardless, the core game is pretty much exactly the same, and after I spoke to this team, they confirmed that this new version of the game is completely finished. And although he is not sure when it will be released, as far as he knows, he expects it to be released at some point in the future. And if you ask me, my guess is that it will be coming pretty soon on the Amico home app. Yeah, look, it's still not connecting. It's not working. It'll probably be one of the most expensive games on this app. 15 to 20 quid is my guess. And yeah, that's the end of that. This is the end of the road, guys. This right here, this is what we've been waiting for. This is the Amico home. This is the Amico on your phone. A console that was constantly pushed to not be on mobile phones. These games cannot run on mobile phones. It does not have mobile phone technology in it. And it's finally here. This is it. This is the Amico. Everything that this console stood for is no longer factual. This is an absolute disgrace. If they released the console and it was a flop due to its terrible hardware, it still wouldn't have been as bad as this. This is the end result of $17 million plus. And sure, even though I do believe we will see a few extra game updates on this app, like Finnegan Fox, skiing, pool, biplanes and tank battle, well, actually they would need to remove a whole lot of copyrighted artwork for that one to make it onto the home app. I highly doubt we'll get much more than that. You see, to many people out there, this Amico home app may be the perfect way to drum up interest. This Amico home app that, by the way, is still not connecting. This may be the perfect way to drum up interest and get more funds so they can finally release those Amico consoles to the backers like me. However, we all know that's not the case. This is Intellivision's, you know what, I'm not going to say Intellivision, that's a disgrace to the Intellivision name. This is the Amico team's answer. This is the end of the road, and this is their way of releasing something instead of nothing. If and when this company ever gets taken to court because of all of this, at least they released something. This is all you're ever going to get for your pre-orders, your deposits, and your investments. And it's way, way, way worse than anyone could have ever expected. Hey there guys, thanks for checking out the video. What's this, the second or third? No, it's the third Amico video I've put out on my main channel. And I think it's officially the end now. I don't know if there's ever going to be anything else that's going to happen now that's going to round this up better than what you've seen. This is the end. You know, hey, maybe if they ever release the console, then I'll be able to make a new video, but I can't see anything else. I think this is the end now. So, and what a sad, depressing end to the story, right? Look, anyway, guys, thank you so much for all your support, especially on all of the Amico content. I don't like milking anything dry like this. Like, I know a lot of people will just take one subject and just go crazy with it. I've only ever done 3 Amico videos on this channel, the big one, the Shark review, and now this. So yeah, hopefully you like this as a nice big roundup to the whole thing. I appreciate all your support this year. It's been it's been a good one. It's been a good one. Anyway, this is the part of the video where I'd like to give a massive shout out to all of my Patreons, all of my YouTube members, all of the people that support me being able to create this content. Thank you guys so much. With an extra big shout out going to the following: Akatimo84, Andrew Dalton, Arista, Benjamin Guy, Boots and Pup, Bram Perez, Casey Samples, Chevmatic, Clan Bob, Conrad Constantine, De Action Saxon, Dina81, Derekuda, Ian Quell, Jay's Manchild, Java Al Aiden, James, Jeff Mianowski, John Rogers, Matt Jackson, Mike Fallon, Mind of the Unsane, Nicholas Bertner, Paul Float, Roll VP, Retro to Next Gen, aka Lou, Richard Alderjic, Ryan Burford, Sir Nilsson, Shadow Dragon, Stephen, Temjin44, The Sneaky Ferret, Vitas Varnes, VPS Data, Vike Echo, Bobbles and Bean, The Wonder Ducks, and Ye O Hamburglar. Thank you guys for all your support. I'm actually away tomorrow for a big family trip, only for like 4 days it is, off to Barcelona. So well, by the time you see this, I'll already be there. Will I already be back? I don't know when this is going to get uploaded, actually. Either way, look, thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, even though it's a depressing end for the Amico, I think this has all now been nicely rounded up. Yeah, what a wild ride, eh? What a wild ride. Look, much love to you all. Thank you so much for your support this year, and hopefully I'll see you all next time, guys. Catch you later. Bye bye.